Donald Miller is a awesome author. He has this amazing frame of heroes and villains. And he was speaking about it on the podcast, The School of Greatness, which is Lewis Howes' podcast. And he was talking about how in most cases, heroes and villains have a similar backstory, if not exactly the same. A hero often is an orphan or has gone through some tragic, horrible event, and it's led them to respond in a different way. And then you have a villain who often has like a scar or a limp. They've gone through pain and they've gone through a tragic event as well. And what it boils down to is the response to pain in that damaging situation. So the hero says, the world hurt me. I'm not going to let anybody else hurt this way. While the villain will say, the world hurt me. I'm going to hurt it back. And I wanted to have this conversation because I've been thinking about that for a while. I posted on X as well as Instagram earlier today, just talking about heroes, victims, and villains. And I think that those three are important to discuss is because there's a mentality that's attached to each and every one of them. So hero mentality, victim mentality, or villain mentality, and how I think we each deal with those and we each respond in those mentalities at different moments in our lives. And so I kind of just want to walk through each of these and see if we can help open a dialogue and open a conversation with, are we the hero of our story? Are we the victim of our story? Or are we the villain in our story? Because I think in a lot of times we're probably the villain more than we think. So I'm just going to break down a few things because when we talk about heroes, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? The first thing that comes to my mind is watching Batman, the animated series on WB when I was a child, right? The Warner Brothers channel is right after probably Animaniacs on Saturday morning, but they would always have Batman and Superman and these heroes that would do good. They would just do good. It didn't matter. And yeah, they had a shady past. Some of them had a darker past, Batman with the loss of his parents, but he made this choice and he responded to that pain to where he would always do good. Like that was the thing is he would never kill anybody. He would always save the day and he would, watch out for the little guys. And so I think of heroes and I think of that, just the idea of there's a moral basis when it comes to heroes and villains and how they operate. And heroes tend to always just pursue the good. They pursue to do the right and the best choice that they can, the moral choice that they can. And they're very aware of these choices, especially if you watch any of the comic book movies. There's always some form of decision that tests the moral judgment of, will this hero kill this guy? Or will this hero try to find a new way? And what are they going to do? And how are they going to react to this? And if we look at our lives, to bring it to where we're at right now and why this mentality is so important and why it's been on my mind is, if we look at the mentality of ourselves, is do you have a hero mentality? Are you the hero of your story? And if so, what is causing you to make those decisions? How are you responding to the pain in your life to make the moral decisions, to make the good decisions, to try to do good, even when you're faced with crazy odds and just an unforeseen villain, as somebody who is coming against you and you just don't know exactly who it is or what it is, but you know that they're out there, or you know that this process is not going the way that you thought it would. How are you responding to it? And what I kind of realized is that we often will wait for permission. We'll wait for somebody to tell us this is what you do next, right? And we don't always take the hero's initiative to go do it. You see, a hero doesn't wait for permission to do good. They just go out and do it. They take responsibility when others don't. That's what makes them a hero. So if you want to really become the hero of your story, then you have to learn how to respond to the pain in a different way from the rest of the world and take responsibility for what you can take responsibility for, and even in some cases, what you can't take responsibility for, because that's what heroes do. Now, it's easy to say that. It's easy for me to say, yeah, you've got to have a hero mentality and you've got to take responsibility and you've got to do these things. But that's not always the case, right? Sometimes our life is just in the way and it's more difficult. And we end up dealing with these thought process or even just these experiences where it's like, I had no control over any of this, and it's because of this that this happened, and now I am a victim of this. And so we have a victim mentality. We say that my entire life right now is a consequence of the circumstances that took place, or my life now is the consequences of this horrible breakup, and I'm single now because I have never gotten over my ex, or this never worked out, and honestly I put all my eggs in this basket and then it didn't work. Maybe you lose a job. Maybe your boss wasn't the most friendly. And so you say, I'm not progressing at my job because my boss is so hard on me. And I'm not able to do this because I don't have the skills or the background. And I can't even apply for that job because I don't have a college degree. These are all things that are valid. And I understand it because they're questions that I ask myself is, I don't even know if I can do the next step. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do because honestly, I don't even know if I'm qualified. And I always say that our greatest future lies within the correct view of our past. And the reason why I say that is because I believe that when we accurately look at our past, we tend to see the moments where there was no control. We could not control them. And when we accurately look at it and we see that we can't control it, we begin to let go and say, you know what? There was nothing I could have done to change that outcome. It was out of my control. However, we also see the moments where we can control. And we see the moments where we could have taken responsibility or we could have done things different. And we start saying, you know what? I've seen this before. And I wish I had taken responsibility then. So now I'm taking responsibility to impact my future. And I think that that's what has to take place is instead of a victim mentality, we have to build up the hero mentality of taking responsibility, right? Victims will say, it's not my fault. It's their fault. It's the world's fault. It's the universe's fault. It's God's fault. A victim will blame everything but themselves. And a hero will say, I don't care whose fault it is. It's my fault. Now I'm taking ownership of it, and we're just going to do it. It doesn't matter. I think of Batman, right? And he has this argument with himself, not just in the movies, but throughout all of the comic books. There's this sense of blame and guilt that he has for his parents' death. And even though it wasn't his fault, he needs to let go because those are things that he couldn't control. But he takes responsibility of it, which forces him to change how he views the world and change how he trains and change how he goes about his business so that he can protect others. And he takes responsibility of things that aren't even his, just so he could be there and protect others. You flip that on into the villain role. And the villain says, the world has hurt me, so I'm going to hurt it back. And I see this mentality more now than I think I've ever seen in my entire life, just in society. You hurt me, I hurt you. And this isn't new. This goes way, way back to the Epic of Gilgamesh, I believe, with an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Right? You pluck out my eye, I pluck out your eye. And it's this mentality of discourse and of essentially civil war between friends, family, people. I've seen relationship after relationship end because everybody starts playing the blame game. Right? Somebody doesn't respond to a text. Oh, you didn't respond to my text, so I just stopped texting you. That doesn't get you anywhere but lonely. The villain believes that they're doing something righteous. Well, you didn't do this. So I'm not going to do this anymore. The villain believes they're doing something right, but then they fail to see that there's probably a better way. And they're corrupted by their lack of patience or lack of power, so they begin forcing it, bending the world to their will. And they don't care who they hurt along the way. So the best way to tell if somebody has a villain mentality is watch how they respond to pain and watch how they use their power. Are they lording it over others? Are they forcing it upon others? Because a villain won't care about collateral damage. They just do it. Because you know what? The world hurt me, so I'm going to hurt it back. And this is a dangerous time right now because I've noticed that more and more people are adopting this villain mentality, thinking that they're the hero. I'm the hero of my story. Okay? How did you respond to the pain of that last breakup? Oh, she was crazy. She was crazy. She kept texting me and messaging me, thinking I was cheating on her and all this stuff. Like, she was crazy. Okay, so there was no things that you could have done. Yeah, she was just crazy. It was going to end no matter what. Okay? So you lost that job. Yeah, my boss was a jerk. My boss was an idiot. Didn't know what he was doing. He's a terrible boss. Honestly, I don't know how that place is even open now that I'm gone. You don't think there's a little bit something that you could have taken responsibility for? Something that you could have done? Why were you fired? They said I was late. I was like 1 minute late. One time. I was an hour late the other time. And the other time. And the other time. And the other time. There's so many aspects of our mentality where we'll play the villain card. We'll play the villain mentality, thinking that we're the heroes, thinking that we're righteous. It's one of the reasons why we attach ourselves to characters in movies that are evil, but we can kind of understand them. That's why they do that, right? Thanos in the Marvel movies made a little bit of sense. He was doing what he believed was the right thing to do, and nobody was going to stop him. But he didn't think of the fact that there could be a better way. And a hero will fight with the morals to do the best that they can, to do good and take responsibility for doing good, and try to find a better way until the last resort is something that they don't even want to do. We see the battle of morals in superheroes. And we see how villains won't care who they hurt. But heroes will do everything they can to protect people from getting hurt. And victims, I put them in the middle because honestly, I think a lot of us are victims of one, villain mentality, but two, we are victims of a society that has told us we're heroes, that we are good, that we are capable, that we are awesome, that we are so great and so deserving, that when you actually correctly look at your past and look at our past, we realize that we're not. We haven't been the best boyfriends. We haven't been the best girlfriends. We haven't been trustworthy. We haven't put everything we could into that job. We haven't been diligent. We haven't been able to be consistent. We haven't been hard workers. I say this from personal experience. I'm 35 years old and I've just landed the job of my dreams and I love this job. But this job is not a job that 35-year-olds usually go get. We just hired a 21-year-old who just got out of school. This job is normally a job that younger people go after and then build their career from. But it took me 15 extra years to learn all these things and recognize that, oh, crap. Maybe I've been told a lie And I've been a victim of these lies. But just because you're a victim doesn't mean you have the victim mentality. What I did was I recognized, hey, I'm not all that. In fact, I'm probably less than all that. And so I need to get to work. And from 32-ish to 35, I've put every bit of effort that I could into getting better emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, career-wise. I want to get better. And if I can do anything with this podcast, I hope that I encourage you to have these type of conversations with yourself. This podcast is me having a conversation to myself, with myself, trying to talk out some of the things that are in my brain that I just can't shut up. That I need to have these conversations, and I believe wholeheartedly that I am not alone. So I hope that it will challenge your brain juices to think a little bit outside the box and say, you know what, maybe I've had a victim mentality and I need to start taking responsibility. Or maybe I've been the villain in my life instead of the hero because I've been hurting people left and right and I've left a trail of bodies. You know, if somebody says, oh yeah, every single one of my girlfriends was crazy. You know what the single common denominator of all of your relationships are? You. You have to have these conversations. I'm 35 years old, and I swear, there are moments in my life that I look by and I say, wow, I thought I was doing the right thing. And it wasn't until years later or months later, thankfully in some cases weeks later, that I realized, you know what, that was probably the wrong move and I need to take responsibility for that. It's not an easy concept, but I want to have this conversation and I want to spark the conversation. Ask your friends, hey, do I give off villain mentality? And when they say no, be like, okay, when was the last time that I said something hurtful to you as a joke that actually hurt you? Am I a victim? Do I play the victim card a lot? Ask your friends. Ask your close family members, the people who you're around. Do I blame you, others, or circumstances on where I'm at right now? Genuinely. If you ask the close people around you, they'll give you an honest answer. Be prepared. Because you may not find out that you're always the hero. And that's okay. I'm not having this conversation to crack down on you. I'm having this conversation to open your eyes and ears to the fact that things can be different. And I hope that wherever you are, whether you're in your teens or 20s or 30s or 40s or older, that you start making choices that a hero would make. That you would take responsibility when others do not. Even if it's not your fault. You just take ownership of it. Control what you can control. Let go of the past and move forward. That's going to do it for this conversation. I really appreciate all of you who are listening. I can't believe it's episode 99. We're almost at episode 100. This is wild to think about. Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll do something special for the next episode. We'll see what it's going to be, but I hope that all of you have a wonderful rest of your week. Remember to give grace, show love, and as always, stay stellar. Peace.